Hey everyone, it's the Marketing Share Podcast. I'm Alec and I'm here with my co-host, Barb.
Hey, Alec, how's it going?
Hello, I'm good. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Barb, we have a dual guest today. We've done this before, so it's not the first time, but we got to pull up an extra seat to the table this time because we've got a twofer, right?
Yeah, and it's a husband and wife team.
Right. Yes. New also for us. That'll make it maybe an extra dimension of fun. Okay. Tell our listeners and reviewers why are we interviewing them? What's their
Yeah,
thing? They've got a book out, right?
yeah. This is really a cool group. This is Tanya and Tony Thorson, who's written this book together called Get Off Your Masses or Get Off Your Mass. Anyway, it's a fascinating read and it's chock full of great stories. And yes, it's a marketing book, but they've done an amazing job of connecting the dots on real cultural stories. And really, the talk track is about how to connect more with your customers, whether you're B2B or B2C. And they're
Mm-hmm.
going to introduce a whole new paradigm or a whole new framework called B2A. And it's not business to AI, it's business to everyone, anyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think marketing listeners, right? I think you're going to get it, right? The little pun in their book, get off your mass marketing. And I think we all know mass marketing is not really the way to go, but at the same time, we're all trying to do it. We're all trying to reach a bigger audience. We're all trying to, blank the market and get messages out there while at the same time personalizing. It's hard to do. It's the thing we've all been trying to figure out. I like the perspective I think they're going to share with how to think about doing that in a way that's more human.
Yeah,
So,
and they're transitioning, like, while it may seem like mass, right? It's not mass. It's
right.
really about from reach to resonance. How do we
Yeah.
resonate with people? How do we get our messages to land much more effectively? And how do we humanize in the course of this whole AI and automation trend that we're on right now? I think it's going to
Hmm.
be fascinating.
Yeah. Well, all right. Let's go talk to our husband and wife duo team of Tanya and Tony.
All right, cool.
Thanks.
Hey, Alec.
Hey, Barb. Glad to be back in studio.
I know, super fun, super fun. Today we've got a full house, huh? We've
Yep.
got Tanya and we've got Tony Thorson, who are going to here to talk about a really cool new book. It's called Get Off Your Masses. And I have read this book and it's genius, by the way. It's a super fun read. I loved it. But of course, I come from so many of these stories that Tanya tells. So I'm super excited to jump into it. So, Tanya, talk about why you guys wrote the book, how you got into this, maybe a little bit of your career background, and, just what was the impetus?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, first of all, for having us. I'm really excited for the next hour to be chatting with both of you and sharing more about the book. The genesis of the book really came about because I've been on both sides of the fence. My career started in B2C. I was in retail apparel for 20 years, and I worked both in B2C and B2B on that side. And then I moved into a B2B SaaS startup, which was completely different, but an exciting opportunity for me. And why did I do that? It was because I wanted to continue to learn and challenge myself. And SaaS is something that is only going to get more robust. It has, as we can see. So doing that move and bringing some of my B2C principles, I was able to help drive some of the business opportunities within a B2B SaaS startup, meaning omni-channel, talking from a personalization perspective, looking at the business from a buyer lens instead of a product lens, talking about what it means to help solve those problems and becoming much more engaged, not through so much the funnel fundamentals, but really engaging with the potential buyer. And that was a game changer for us. We tightened up our sales cycle. We became much more authentic. We became more personalized with our new customers and our lifetime value customers. And I saw that as an opportunity to say, hey, you know what? We do have these two lanes. They're both different, but there's some synergies now that are happening, and we cannot ignore that. And by doing moving some of those principles into a B2B SaaS startup, we were able to see some remarkable numbers, doubling our ARR and really moving the needle. And so that really kind of struck a chord. And with partnership with my husband, we were able to kind of talk through a lot of these conversations because he's in B2B manufacturing. So
Yeah.
that's really the genesis of it. And Tony, I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, that's correct. I mean, one of the reasons we started to write the book is we talk about these things every day, and we talk about the newsletters, and she's got a newsletter also called "Get Off Your Mask." That's how we started that. And as the ideas came up, if we just started finding that there were so many things that were relatable, that were what people want to call B2C and what they want to call B2B, and it's really, we just figured it's business to anyone. She uses some of the same tactics that I would. I use some of the same ones that she did. And it just kind of grew from there. From our newsletters, we thought maybe, hopefully we've got something a little more to offer, a little bit more, a fun way to talk about marketing.
I love that you've torn down this silo because, I've been in B2B and in B2C myself. And truthfully, we've got more in common than we know, right? And so many of these techniques are very similar, and we could probably learn a heck of a lot from each other. Talk about the title of this book, because I think it's kind of interesting. How'd you guys come up with that?
Yeah, it's a little promiscuous, a little provocative, but it says a lot without saying a lot. And, it was just conversations that we were having and, looking at what it means. We wanted something to be catchy and sticky. And we ran this past a few of our colleagues and friends. Some people got it right away and they're like, oh, you need to trademark that. That's really good. Or what's that mean? I don't get it. And so we'd have to explain it. We came up with it because it says so much more about the meaning of marketing today and really getting off your ass. Stop just spraying and praying. And being in both B2C and B2B, I'm with you, Barb. I got eyes rolled many times like, oh, you don't know B2B. B2B is very different. Very different. B2C is very different. And they are different. But at the end of the line, the common through line is a customer. It's a human being. I'm not going to discount the fact that there are more people involved in the B2B go-to-market strategy than there is in B2C. That being said, it's really about being that and being more personalized, being more engaged, and really stopping the formula, but being more authentic in how we deliver our messaging and how we reach our buyers.
I agree. I think with Tanya, like she said, it's a little bit provocative, but I think it's fun. Like some of our colleagues liked it. I hope you liked it too. We like to have things that have dual meaning, and I think this obviously is one. If you're not in marketing, you might not understand exactly what they mean by mass. You're talking about mass marketing, right? So it's like, get off of that. And that's a little bit of what we talk about in the beginning in the book. We talk a little bit about Andy Warhol, about how he had his automation and his factory. And yet he had that, what he loved about the silk screening was you could have repetition, you could have mass marketing, but you can also have that little human smudge, what we like to call the smudge, which we put across the front of the book also. And anyway, yeah, it's a little motivational kick in the pants too. It's like, and that's kind of what Tanya and, we go home and we talk about these things. And of course there's work-life balance, but a lot of work-life balance is work. So we talk about a lot of these things at home. So
it's great that you guys enjoy work enough that you can still talk about it. That's a lot of people can't do that. Some people are like, the last thing I want to talk about.
Yeah, well, that's, you know what? That comes from the curiosity creed. That was chapter 1.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we talk about that not only in our, in marketing, we talk about that with our family too, with our daughters. That's kind of where that came from is, so many people are shouting and they look at me and they want to be interested. And they think if they're interesting, that people will be interested. And we kind of thought that's kind of backwards, right? It's like, you should be interested and curious about things, and that will like authentically make you interested. Other people will be more interested in you and your brand.
Yeah. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that's one thing I wanted to comment on. I love that that you are calling out curiosity as like the thing that marketers and just that you need to do if you want to be successful, because that's always been one of my top things that I look for. I'm talking about it in marketing, but this applies to so many things. I really resonate with the what you were calling out, which is like, you got to be curious.
Absolutely.
Curiosity is what gets you to ask that next question. And I've said it a lot of times to people that I coach or people that are on my teams. The thing I'm looking for is I want people that are curious. So I'm super glad that you guys called that out. In fact, like one of my favorite scenes and lines from Ted Lasso is the one where he talks about curiosity, right? I know you guys probably know which one I'm talking about.
Sure.
That's
Yeah,
that's like one of the best ones I have ever seen. And so I don't know. I guess I just love that.
No, go ahead, Tanya.
No, I was just going to say the curiosity piece of it. We as marketers, we as business people, I think have lost that because we're getting so saturated with technology,
Mhm.
all this software that, hey, you can now get so prescriptive of where your buyer's at. And we've got all of these pieces, and we're trying to centralize it to one dashboard. By the time we get that dashboard, our heads are down, we're
Mhm.
focused on the numbers, and then we're tired, we're exhausted.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't really know what to do with it. And so we pass that dashboard off to the C-suite, and we're not asking any questions. And I think because we've kind of gotten into this routine, this motion, we've lost sight of being just interesting and being interested. And that's where I think a big unlock needs to happen today. We need to slow down. And that's, again, taking back to get off your mess. Let's think about the quality instead of the quantity so much. And let's think about what it means to be engaged with a buyer. Is it really a funnel? Is that what we're going to talk about? Is it top, middle, bottom of funnel? That's where buyers
Well,
are.
right.
No, the buyer's going to be they're ping-ponging. They're not saying, "Hey, I'm at top of the funnel today. I hope I get some materials that are top of the funnel." They're on a journey. They're on their own journey, and they're not in this 8 to 5 where I'm Tanya Thorson, a CMO. I'm Tanya Thorson. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm a CMO. And so I'm thinking about different things. And so that omnipresence and really, providing those touch points needs to be cognizant of that. And that's where we have to kind of let those silos come down and really start looking at the process or the funnel, the journey more holistically.
Yeah.
I actually fell in love with, and I dog-eared it on your book because I loved it so much. I fell in love with the piece that you wrote about we're moving from stages to signals.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more. It's almost like I always think of it rather than this crazy funnel, like like we're linear, right? In some sort of linear funnel. I always think of it like an amoeba. We're moving in and out of
Yeah.
things. We're
Yeah.
deciding things. We're touching on something. Our curiosity takes us to different places at different things. Even as a business person buying software services or as a person who's a consumer. So talk a little bit. I love that phrase.
Go ahead, Tones.
Oh, well, yeah. When you're talking about signals, like I'm thinking about one of the areas in the book that we had with the personalization paradox. You're talking about like the more that we target, the less personal we seem, and we tried to sort of talk about personalization in a way that talks about how not to do it. So we thought that SNL would be a fun way to do that. We tried to choose different skits and show how, for example, like the Target lady with Kristen Wiig, she comes in and she knows everything about you, and she knows too much about you, and it gets creepy, right? Or we talk about
Yes.
Chris. We talk about Colleen Raftery with Kate McKinnon when she talks about the experiences that she has, and people talk about, oh, it's a wonderful experience, and she's like, yeah, that's not quite what I felt, so she doesn't have quite the same thing. And I thought it was a fun way to approach the personalization thing, because everybody talks about what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to connect, and we just chose in that chapter to show how maybe this doesn't work quite right. And we've all felt that. I think we can all relate to that. Yeah.
Totally. Come on. I feel like people are watching me everywhere I am right now. It's scary, isn't it?
Oh my God, absolutely. Like I'll be talking about something and it'll pop up on my phone. I'm like, are you
I know.
texting or something? And I'm like,
Getting
how do you
used to that,
know?
but it's still strange.
Well, let me have you talk to the flip side of that, right? So, if what is a way to personalize but without overdoing it, what do you recommend?
I would say being personal is really about like what we were just talking about. It's the signals instead of the stages. So doing your homework, doing and becoming more interested in your buyers instead of doing a generic template that you're going to speak to for every person or persona.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be more, you need to be more involved. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where I think the quality comes in versus the quantity, making sure that you're really touching those buyers and you know your shit. You know what, if
Yeah.
you've read their last earnings call, you know some of the things that are pain points to potential solutions that you can provide with them.
Mm-hmm.
Put yourself in their shoes instead of just being transactional. Really engage with them in the true sense, engaging. And
Yeah.
that I think is really what will drive that trust and credibility of the brand and also make them interested now in wanting to speak to you and your product solutions.
Yeah.
I think that's a great question. I think because it's a perfect follow up in that very next chapter. After we talk about the personalization paradox, we talk about something that we thought was, again, it's simplified, of course, but we call it the resonance mix, where you talk about being authentic, we talk about being relatable, and dialing that in to the correct, to the correct volume level and to the correct place in the omni-channel. And the message might be a little bit different, and it might, skew a little bit different depending on where you're at. But that's one thing that it's a nice little way that we try to help people understand how people connect and how they resonate. And resonance is a really tough thing to do. But like, we like to think if you're authentic and you're relatable, that it will start there anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, this book is a masterclass in storytelling. Kudos to you guys. And you tell a story that says, hey, marketing today is a bit more about Spielberg than it is about spreadsheets, right? And I know that's what we're talking about too, is we're talking about how to connect. And storytelling is one of the ways that you connected with
Okay.
me in this book.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it truly is. And that's how, what makes you tick is what we always say. Like, sometimes we're talking and we're like, well, what makes us, engaged? What makes us tick? And so you think about all the things that I can remember is through the storytelling, through, movies, through characters that, that we follow. We talk about Anthony Bourdain in the first chapter. This guy was, a mastery chef, but he didn't go in knowing everything. He went in with curiosity. He went in not just talking about the food, but he wanted to know more about the culture, more about the people. And what does that do? That makes you as that person feel like, oh, he's interested in me. He wants to talk to me. Now I'm receptive. It's those little subtle changes that we need to really think about and get back to, because with AI that we were talking about earlier, we've got this amazing tool, this system now that can provide us with information so quick, but we're not using it to the advantage of getting closer and more intimate with our potential buyers. And that's what we need to be doing. They're feeling further away, and what we need to be doing is feeling closer to them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, this reminds me of an old story, the saying that I used back, oh my gosh, at the beginning of my career, right? I don't care how much you know until I know how much you care, right? So you have to connect with me before I'm listening to you.
That's good.
Good.
I like that.
That's a good one, Barb. That's a good connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost feels like, when you were talking about it, what it made me think is that when you focus so much on the personalization and you have to know more and more and more, sometimes what you're actually doing is you're boxing people so much into this frame that you've set up for them, that you've assumed, right? And then you stop then just being, to your point, curious about just like, well, hey, instead of me trying to show you how much I know about you, maybe I should just try to be genuine with how I'm approaching you with curiosity and interest.
Absolutely.
And that's,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, when we're talking about like storytelling and content creation, that's one thing we talked about. You mentioned Spielberg. Hopefully, people connect with ET, with the finger and Elliot, things like that. And we tried. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, yeah, you talked about Ted Lasso, and there were so many instances where we're like, oh, that, let's be cool and tell this story and tell that. But then it's like, well, we tried to think bigger. We tried to think, Taylor Swift. We tried to think Spielberg. We tried to, think Saturday Night Live, so that people could relate to that. And so when you tell these stories, you tell, and you have this, people can see themselves in the stories, however that is, and it's kind of like a Tony Robbins thing. He's got such a large framework from which to work with. He can't talk to all of us specifically, but boy, he sure resonates with a lot of people, because they can see themselves, or Taylor Swift, people can see themselves in the stories. Trust me, again, that's our daughters. If they grew up with Taylor Swift, if they listen to a song, they can just send it to us and we know exactly how they feel that day, So.
All right. Now, another framework that you guys mentioned is POISE, POISE. Can I have you talk about that? Explain that a little bit to our listeners.
Sure. So I would say it's been in my toolbox since I started working. I've always operated with POISE, and P stands for personalization, O is for omnichannel, I is for innovation, S is for strategy, and E is for EQ. What we were able to do is we were able to put this formality behind it. So we actually just dropped it into ChatGPT and they came up with POISE. And so voila. So
I know that it was so perfect. It gave us a dual meaning again. We're like, we had the words, we had the ideas, and really, it's like, oh, how did we not see POISE? It makes sense. I'm sorry. Go ahead, sweetheart.
No. So, to me, the personalization needs to be more intimate, needs to be less about scripts, but more about doing your homework and understanding your potential buyers and asking those questions and being interested. That's the first, the first lever of POISE. Omnichannel is today, it's nonlinear, and we need to be where the buyer is going to be. And in the world that we're in today, like we were saying earlier, you're on work, you're on mom time, you're on wife time, you're on personal time. And so having all of those, you need to be thinking about where your messaging should be going and what that means to the potential buyer. Again, nonlinear, again, more personalized, again, more, really engaging with your audience, with your buyers, and talking about, what that trust and credibility looks like is how you'll get that through the omnipresence. You're building that, and then they're going to want to come reach out to you. Innovation is really just creating that momentum and really being able to show that you have, that you're a human and you're not a transaction, and that we find that to be of value. Tony, if you want to, kind of add some of that.
Like the idea of POISE, again, I guess we like the dual meaning things, right? So it's an acronym, right? Like she said, but it's all pulled together with the last one, really. That I think that's what's most important in today's marketing is the emotional intelligence. That pulls everything else together. We all understand personalization. We know what omnichannel is, what innovation looks like to different people and strategy looks like different things. But what we're trying to do is everything into this book we built towards that, so that we really tried to infuse the human element, the connection, being interested, like you said, with curiosity and personalization. But emotional intelligence, at the end of the day, we think pulls it all together. And the idea of POISE, just literally, you talk about like living your life. It's not just about like work, but it's also life. Living your life with POISE, marketing with POISE. Not only is that, the acronym that we all understand, it's a way of life too. And hopefully, you can do that. And
yeah,
right.
Absolutely. You brought up the Angela Ahrendts example, which I've actually used too in my career. Oh my gosh, it's like all these examples I've actually used, which I love. And it's about omnichannel. Her work with Burberry and so forth, and then later on with Apple and so forth, was really about omnichannel. So talk to me about what best-in-class omnichannel looks like, because it's not necessarily just I'm saying the same words in every single channel on the planet, right? It's really something better.
It's taking it to a place where the buyer, the potential buyer, seeing the consistency. So you're building that strength, you're building that relativity behind the brand, but you're making it more meaningful based on the channel that it's in. You're not going to speak in the same language on LinkedIn as you may on Instagram or TikTok, depending on where your product is. You're going to have a common through line so they know and understand your brand, your qualities, etc. But there's going to be a place where you need to kind of massage it so it's more tailored to that potential platform.
I think right message, right time, right tone. And I can give you an example from just a couple days ago. Gwyneth Paltrow speaking on behalf of Astronomer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It was so perfect. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you talk about omnichannel. You think Astronomer had any comedic YouTube videos out there? Probably not. They're probably very B2B related. I'm not really sure, but I'm sure it was very, solve this problem. Here's our software is going to help you. And here's your opportunity to bring business to anyone. It's to use that fun, that flash, that humor from B2C, bring it together. And that the people making those decisions, they're going to relate to that on both levels, right? So they're bringing them both together. I thought that was a perfect example of and again, it is, I'm not sure where their other omnichannel is, but I think that one worked. I liked it.
That's a great call out that you just made, because I had that same thought. It's like, wow, they nailed the response on that, kind of like a perfect balance. And let me ask you back about that. That is hard to do when you're in a pressure situation like that, right? So I think they had a good advisor on that. But like, what do you guys say about like trying to get that, hold on to your tone, and how to make right decisions when the pressure's on you? That's the hardest part.
I think it's about consistency, right? It's not about if you've prepared really well. Another chapter in our book is called mise en marketing, which is talking about it's a play on words about mise en scène or mise en place, which you have in movies and you have in cooking and things like that. I think if you prepare ultimately for every possible and different scenario and you're working hard, I think you can really pivot quickly, especially with today's technology. So that's what I saw them do. It's like, okay, these guys, either they had the right person on the speed dial, or they're like, okay, we're prepared, we're ready for this. And boy, I think they nailed it. I think that's the way you do it, is preparation.
And they didn't go behind the curtain. They stepped up and they said, they positioned themselves in a way that I think was very relatable to everyone.
Yeah.
It was funny in some ways, or it was like, wow, great ad to get Gwyneth Paltrow. Things are so it's conversation at the water, the water fountain now. What were you thinking of that commercial that you saw?
Yeah.
I always go back to this courage of our conviction as marketers, right? It's like, in decision making, we have to be confident in our decisions. We have to be, and it's part of your preparation, right? Mm-hmm. Preparation helps you feel that. It helps you give you that courage of your convictions. I think you said something like marketers have lost their nerves sometimes, right? And how do marketers become more bold and brave?
We need to stop. I think we've done ourselves a disservice we're known as the funnel, and we need to be known as a business executive. And that is what, I started my career as a merchant. So I was responsible from, new customer acquisition as well as lifetime value. But the common through line was always driving revenue, driving sales, and making the customer happy. And we've lost sight of that as marketers. We've become known as we organize the funnel. That's our job. That's our responsibility. And one of the chapters that we talk about is the cross-functional champion, breaking those silos down, looking at the business holistically, really kind of leaning into each other's departments to help build that roadmap, to help build that go-to-market strategy, because the buyer is not looking at it in fragments. And when we do have these segments, it's hurting the buyer and it's hurting the buyer journey. And having that, I believe, is really important, because it shows that we should be having a voice and a seat at the table, because we are ultimately driving revenue. And we need to get that language into our methods and be speaking as a leader, as a thought leader who's driving growth, who's driving strategy, because we are the connective tissue to all the departments. So, we play a vital role, yet we are always the first to go if something goes wrong with sales. And I think we need to definitely change that, change the scope, change the lens.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think when the pressure's on, you pause, you breathe, you try to bring clarity to situations. And hopefully, we all have different experiences, but that's another thing we talked about in the book, what we call mosaic marketing, and bringing fragments of your life from all different kinds of whether that's a book you read, or it's a conversation you had with your daughters over breakfast, or whatever it is, your experiences in life. If you've felt it and you've been there, chances are somebody else is, and it can at least relate on some level if you tell your story in a true way and you tell your people in a true way, like Tanya was talking about. It's also about the people, like Jim Collins said, get good to great, get the right people on the bus. And what we talk about are cross-functional champions, which we think is, we like to think that marketing is the middle of that. We're the messengers and we can spread the message, but really a cross-functional champion can be anyone, anybody who's curious, anybody who cares, anybody who's interested. I think when you do that internally, that culture build will really resonate externally too, if you're all on the same message and all on the same page.
Is that how you would recommend marketers to break out of that mold? Because Tanya, go back to what you were recommending, what you were saying, and I resonate with it. You do want to break out of just being seen as just, I'm just the funnel, right? I'm the one that manages the funnel. But sometimes you feel stuck in there because that's what if people keep expecting that and that's all they look to you for, and that's where they box you in. What would you recommend to listeners right now, or marketers out there who's like, okay, yeah, I do want to do that, but how do I take the first step? How do I break out of that mold?
It's talking about the signals versus the stages, and really making sure that you're getting receptivity from those potential buyers.
Okay.
Because like I was saying, it's not a step two. The buyer could be going back and forth based on where they're at and their journey and their discovery. So I think it's really that, and it's looking at the end game. It's not just looking at, okay, I've got to the, bottom of the funnel. Now I'm going to pass this baton now over to sales. That's the way we're thinking about it. We need to be thinking about, how do we get this potential buyer to the finish line and we get it to a sale? So it's the methods of a mindset change. It's really thinking about things differently and challenging ourselves. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, because right now it's a formula. Everybody knows what it is. It's so structured, and we're afraid to kind of get out of our lane and change things up. Because why? Because it's going to require us to think differently. It's going to require us to work harder. And right now it's like, here we are. This is what we do. We know it's not working. We know we're still operating in a 2010 playbook. Try and see if something shakes out. And what we have lost is that intimate connection with the buyer. We've gotten so stuck in a formula that is the funnel.
Yeah. I have seen. I would go as far as to say, siloed executives are the death of a company. Okay, and
Go Barb.
You talk
That's how you
honestly,
really Barb.
and the reason I say that, right? You're a master of juxtapose. I'm juxtaposing it because I've actually seen the momentum, right? The multiplier effect of when these silos are broken and you are actually moving as one really powerful force. So my question to you is, what I bet one way is to bring up the cost of this to a company. Talk about that. You say that in your book a little bit. The cost of silos.
In the end, what you really want to do is connect both internally and externally. And when you do that, I think that connection is what people feel. That's what is going to make people buy. So, is there an exact metric for that? Isn't that one of the problems, the paradoxes in marketing, is how do you measure what's successful? We have a little way to break out of silos in our chapter that we liked. It's called something old, something new, something bold, something true. And that's, we obviously a little play off of the old wedding adage. But, if you want to think a little bit differently and break out of your silo, maybe that's a good way to do it. Think of what your heritage is. That's something old. Think of something Something new is that's innovative. Something bold, maybe that's disruptive. And something true, that's something relatable. Can you say that about all the decisions that you're making and the brand story that you're trying to tell? So that's just a little framework for maybe people to help them think of a way to break out of their silo.
And using that, then you're going to see the sales cycle tighten up because you're going to be sending messaging that's more personable, that's more relatable. So you're going to start seeing some of those metrics start improving. And that's what we were able to do in the SaaS startup that I was a part of is by tightening that sales cycle, getting those opportunities to a win, to a closed sale, to driving revenue, to driving those sales. And if you can continue to do that, you're going to obviously, the frequency is going to be much higher and you're going to be able to drive more sales, more revenue because you're becoming more intimate and more personal with your potential buyer.
He's better with the metrics than I am. Measure things better than I, which is ironic. It's like what I'm in is actually, I am the managing director for a company that produces measuring tools. And yet you can measure back to me.
Is that the manufacturing? That's your manufacturing background, measurement industry or measurement tools, or
we represent a Danish manufacturer of precision measuring tools. They have a small manufacturing outfit on close to the North Sea. It's a beautiful area, and we import and sell around the United States, Canada, and Mexico through a series of distributors. It's measuring tools. Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
I worked for Danish and Swiss companies for 20 years. So I know the precision of that side of the world. So it's kind of cool.
Like the design is really important to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, most of my career has been in software and services, but the few times that I've had opportunities to actually work with physical manufacturing of some sort, I always find it fascinating. I love going into manufacturing facilities or shops and things like that.
Yeah.
I think just to get your hands on the product and feel it, physical touch. Yeah,
exactly. Oh, you're so right. You're so right. That's the wonderful thing about it is, you can look at spreadsheets only for so long, and then I can work with your hands. I'm in the back right now in the calibration lab. That's why I got this light on me. I can calibrate things or put things together or ship it or sell it or go on this sales call. So it's a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's funny.
You also touched on something though too, is like the data can tell us one thing, but really having focus groups and talking with your buyers, talking with your existing customers, they're your best, most economical marketing, that vehicle that you have. And I see in B2B, we don't utilize that to the degree that we can. We become just about this process. And I know in my B2C worlds, that's how we drove businesses. We drove new categories coming from focus groups and hearing from the potential buyer because I don't know, it's more meaningful when you're in person. You get energy, you get personality that comes through, and the data is just very binary.
Yeah, don't forget the qualitative, for crying out loud, right?
No.
It's like, guys, in your book, you bring out this beautiful term resonance, and resonance is the new reach. I absolutely love that. And I can actually, you can actually foretell this story, which is the more we mechanize, the more we operationalize, the more we AI everything, the less this feels like resonance. In fact, I'm worried that we're just going to be putting more stuff out there in the marketplace and nobody's going to be connecting with it. I mean, that's one of my biggest fears out there, right? So within this, but in the same vein, I report into a private equity board, right? And so how do we bridge the gap between telling the story about resonance and how important that is versus getting my KPI sheets together for the board? How do we do that as marketers?
You have to, the numbers, we have to speak to the numbers, and the qualitative will get us to speaking to those numbers. I think what we've done is we've done it the other way. We've tried to hit the numbers and we haven't really thought about how we're going to get to those numbers. And then it's been more transactional. And this approach is much more about the reach and the engagement and building that trust and that credibility. In theory and in practice, I've seen both. It will happen if that's what you do. If you start connecting with your buyers, the follow-up to that, the numbers will support that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I maybe one way is you can send them our book. Try to be human, right? And then that's kind of the idea. We're really trying to infuse the human element into everything, and that's our whole smudge idea, which is, you can tech everything to death, and it's gonna sound like it's tech unless you have some type of human edge, and that's kind of what we really have going for us now, because we're all going to be using it, and it's all going to get more automated. So what
Yes.
beautiful imperfections can you bring to the table that makes you relatable and authentic? Because I still think people can see that too. It might not be in a couple of years, but right now I think people can see it.
Hmm. Hmm.
I would argue that you can operationalize yourself into small increments of growth in a business. But when it comes to step function changes, you've got to bring out the big guns. And I mean the big guns like truly connecting with customers, truly maybe innovating in your business, truly really thinking about what's next and how to become a better answer to their solution. You're a better solution now, right? For those
Mhm.
customers.
The more technology we have, the more we can become more personal and more engaged with those potential buyers. We don't have to spend 3 days assessing the numbers now. We have AI that can give it to us in 3 minutes or 30 minutes, depending. So it frees us up with those remedial things, but it allows for us now to get even closer to the buyer. I think that's one of the unlocks or one of the misses that we're seeing is that we're just passing the numbers through, and that's the route we're taking. That's the strategy with where we're going, and that's where we need to pause and get clarity and reflect.
Yeah, one of the big things I think you can do is disrupt, and that doesn't mean chaotic. That just means let's try to find something different. It only has to be slightly different, just a little bit different. We talk about David Bowie, about how he changed from Ziggy Stardust to Aladdin Sane and the Thin White Duke and all these, but yet he was the same person, But that's strategy right there. He knew what he was doing. He was authentic. He was real, and yet he
Mhm.
could change, and everybody followed right along with him,
Hmm.
which I thought that was so. If you know who you are, you know what your brand is, and that how you're resonating or how you want to resonate. Think a little bit outside the box, like we talked about Muhammad Ali or the Barbie, how Barbie with Margot Robbie became such a statement that it actually surprised me. I went to see the movie. I didn't really want to. I really didn't. And
We
I
both
left. I was like, that was amazing. I was like, the story both from a male and female points of view and the different things
Mhm.
I mean, that ending line that I don't know if I should give it away in case nobody's seen it, but the end line at the end of the movie was just beautiful. Something about gynecology.
I thought you were going to say Ken. I'm Ken F.
I'm
Okay.
Knuff. That's great too. I felt good. I was like, hey, yeah, I am Knuff. All right. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe that's what changed me on the movie. I saw pink everywhere. I'm like, really? Are we going to do this? Yeah. It was great. I loved it. I thought they were both great. Yeah.
You guys have a lot of good stories and analogies in your book. What's the one that people bring up the most often? And what do you think that says?
Well, the one that I think I already kind of went to that one with Kate McKinnon and Colleen as Colleen Raftery. She had a
Yeah.
series of different things in SNL skits, and the one that she has with Ryan Gosling, we got a little provocative in the book on that one. But I was like, okay, we we're all adults here. I mean, it's hilarious the way she's underneath his legs, and
Yeah.
people talk about that. I don't know. I could watch that one all day long. She cracks me up.
Oh my God.
And watching him trying to keep it together for the skit is like is like
Shaking it 'cause
equally funny.
so hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally fine. Guys, how does somebody get a hold of you and how do we get this amazing book?
So you can reach out to me at tanyalynthorson@gmail.com or message me on my LinkedIn or Tony on his LinkedIn. The book is available both paperback and Kindle on Amazon. And I'd love for you guys to, share that with the group and share that with the audience. It's a different read and it's fun. It's going to make you laugh. It's going to make you think. It's going to make you really put yourself in a different perspective. And that's why we did it. If we wanted to do, here's your 10 tips and tricks on the new go-to-market strategy, we could have chat GPT that and given that to you.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
this is more
This
authentic.
is a fun read,
Yeah.
marketers. Okay. Not one of those, I got to read this book that I got to go home
User.
and read. It's a fun one.
So
Well,
I hope it excites everyone, and I think I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish, and I'm thanks you guys for having us. It's been fun.
Well, we're great having you on our show. You have the distinction of being the first husband and wife team that we've interviewed on our podcast. And based on how well this went, we're going to have to go look for others because this appears to be a good model.
Not my husband. He said,
No. I said yes, Barb, and not our own spouses, but
we're setting things up, but you guys always have to keep breaking the mold, right? Just
yes, yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
thank you so much. Really appreciate having you on. Great talking to you about it. I love the different ideas and perspectives you brought. I think it's great what you said, and I hope I think our listeners will take a lot from it. So thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate it.